Welcome to the Storm Code. My name is Stormy Calder. Some of you may know me as Emelina. This podcast is all about demystifying the human experience and learning how to live as a soul in a human body, as difficult or as challenging as that may seem. So, what's going on? If you're new, hey boo, my name's Stormy Calder. And I'm a consciousness expert, a psychic medium, a high performance coach, and a shaman, helping to Sherpa your human experience to guide you to navigate a happy, healthy, soul driven, and love fueled life. It's funny because we think that living a soul driven life would be easy, but it's not. It's like the opposite. It's actually pretty tough to juggle spiritual needs and material needs simultaneously, and it does require a very high level of expertise. Who know we came into these bodies without a mother effing manual. And on that note, I won't guarantee that I won't swear. This podcast is rated as explicit, so get your headphones in case you got little ones in the room or in the background, and we will jump right in. So, on the topic of the manual, like, hello, who gave us these human bodies without a manual that said, like, hey, don't jump off cliffs and also don't, don't sacrifice yourself under spiritual suicide by selling your soul to Satan, or a meatball monster or anything else that you may think. In all honesty, though, it really is quite a challenge to marry both the material and the spiritual world and a high level of expertise. So, on that topic, I want to talk about the positive mind, the negative mind, and the neutral mind as the three sorts of mental thought patterns and chatter that goes on in our minds, and how to work with focus to create the life you desire and the outcomes that you prefer, the real life outcomes that you're looking for. So mainly what I'm jumping into here is being inherently positive ultimately necessary for the universe to give you the life that you want? Well, yes and no. And I'm going to dive into this here. I think this has everything to do with your perspective and how your mind works, which has everything to do with the conditions of the neurology and the chemistry that created your brain in childhood development. Now, I am not an expert on the brain nor an expert on childhood development, but I am an expert on my own consciousness and what I've been through and opening up my mind to expand and change and grow and develop with really a level of ease that I'm frequently complimented on, that I make spiritual and personal development look very, very easy. And it's often very hard for most people. So, in my own level of extraordinary observation and the observation of others and doing my coaching work with my phenomenal and beautiful clients, I have come to some discoveries that may help you navigate your own mind. So, the reason why I'm covering this topic is because, as you guys know, in any level of spiritual people you're following, or, law of attraction, communities or people or leadership, everyone's always talking about, like, you have to be inherently so positive. And if you're not positive, you're not manifesting the right reality. And if your vibration isn't high, you're not matching the experience that you want to attract. And, you know, it's not that these things aren't true, because they totally are. But I think what happens is, because we're human, we polarize thought, and then we make it a feast or famine cycle, even if it's not. And then we panic and we try to be some level of perfect to get something, because it's really all just a dopamine chase to a high that achievement produces. And most of the people that are chasing after manifestation tactics or understanding or creating their life of their dreams and are working with the law of attraction are more achievement based humans. What does that mean? We're talking about people that get their dopamine from the high of achieving, from the high of chasing. And I'm being led to say right now, it's a very masculine trait, regardless of your gender, it is the chase. So even for women like me and many of the clients that I work with, we're very achievement oriented, which means we're channeling our masculine entity type within ourselves in order to chase after a dopamine rush. Now, backing up a little bit there, I want to cover, is it really important to be so positive so we can attract all the right things? Now, yes, but also what I really want to say is that your positive experience isn't really hinging on the moment to moment emotions that you are feeling through your day. If it did, you'd probably develop a mood disorder. Because if I'm being honest, like you can't be chasing every moment of emotion to force yourself to feel good in order to attract what you want from the universe. That's you trying to manipulate the universe into giving you what you want. And, you know, I mean, just think about any last relationship you encountered manipulation in. Did it feel good? Do you like being manipulated? No? Well, probably the universe isn't that fond of it either. Okay. So let's back out of the manipulation aspect for just a moment and then say, okay, well, it sounds like there needs to be kind of just a blanket acceptance of the underlying frequency of emotions that if you put them all together your entire day and your week and your month, whatever you feel on a regular basis and shoved it into a Play-Doh together and mixed it up and said, what is this frequency and spit it out? That's going to be your resting average vibrational frequency, the frequency that you are emitting from your energy and from your auric field. That is a baseline experience. It is your baseline emotional experience. And the reason why I'm describing this is because I would love for all of you guys, because I know many, many of you think this way, and I completely get it because I used to, and I had to work this through myself. That's how I'm here is I want you to relax and take a seat back and realize that you might feel like shit today, or you might feel like shit on a moment to moment basis, or like you don't have to punish yourself for feeling bad or try to exit a bad feeling. Because the reality is that if you keep feeling roughly the way that you typically feel, you will get similar results overall that have to do with your baseline emotional frequency and vibration and less to do with how you feel on the moment to moment basis. Now, I'm going to cover this in another way as well, because I know a lot of you follow people that will say, don't trust your emotions. This is not something I would typically hear or say in intuitive development. But when we look at the world of psychology, I feel like I hear all the time, don't trust your emotions. And I'm like, well, as a woman, I think that is insane because my emotions are my intuitive guidance system. But why do people say don't trust your emotions? Well, a couple things. Typically, it's men because men intuit and interpret emotions differently. And second, because if you trusted all of the bad feelings when they came through, it would show you an indication that you're doing something wrong. When really, there are lower vibrational feelings that are grief or anger or distrust or just grievances. If you were to trust those as being the end all be all experience right now, you'd probably freak out. So I think the people that say don't trust your emotions are probably well intended. And I think that that's roughly why they say it overall, is to like let loose, allow yourself to feel. You are not here to escape human emotion. But anyway, all of that to say, let's circle back to, are you inherently positive or inherently negative or inherently neutral in your baseline thinking? All right. And I think this has everything to do with how you were raised, your neurochemical pathways, like how they were built and how your brain works from your childhood development. And without inspecting all of the areas of that process, I'm just going to create some really broad, sweeping, generic strokes here and cover this topic. So, this really has to do with if you focus more on positivity versus negativity as your lens or worldview as you look into your reality. Are you expecting more positive things or more negative things? And I have a very interesting perspective on this. I don't think it matters. All right. Follow me through the rabbit hole because I really think that this podcast episode is going to allow so many of you to sit back and relax and just trust that your brain will work the right way. You are not broken. You just need to observe and understand how your own mind works. I'm going to go into this deeper, but the reason why I want to cover this is because there were so many years when I was really pursuing very actively personal and spiritual development and I was like, I have inherently a negative mind, and I do. And that's the perspective I'm gonna take and how I kind of have navigated this. What does that mean? Well, it means that I see all of the negative things in a room first. It means that I see all of the criticism first. It means I see all of the problems first before I see anything positive. Now, that is not a baseline experience for everyone. I know a lot of people that are inherently positive, very, very, very positive thinking. They go into a room and they see how bright it is, how beautiful it is, how the glass is half full. These are things that I have had to train myself into belief, and it's a different way of thought. So there were aspects of me that used to psychologically damage and punish myself in shame because I was like, well, I don't think positively enough. I have to think positively. And then I would create affirmations and it was beautiful and it kind of works. But for me, it was spotty because it was temporary because it's not the way my brain works. And because of the way that I think, you guys, as a consciousness expert, I break these things down and I go, this is too hard. I work through so many aspects of development in the hard ways so that I can come back to you guys after some pretty significant and extreme observation alongside my spirit team and all of the spiritual awareness I get as I'm like a very, very much a test guinea pig for spirit with 5D human awakening. And I go, this is what works for me. This is what doesn't. How can we improve it? And I work with spirit at that level. I perfect my process and then I enter the world and give you guys some good advice, which usually is trust yourself and you're not broken and everything you have is great. Let's figure out how to work with it. So, after long periods of trying to continually insert affirmations into my head and be like, Stormy, you have to think better. You have to think more positively. Insert all of these thoughts. What I found is it didn't stick. It was very temporary. It was just like changing my clothes for the day. And let's use that scenario for a moment, that analogy. Okay, changing my clothes today is like changing the affirmation. And every day I put on new clothes. Okay, new affirmations. But like, if the affirmations aren't the clothes that I want to wear today, then we're going to have a little bit of an issue because what I really wanted to do was change my baseline experience, which is not the clothes I'm wearing energetically. The baseline experience is like my body. Let's say I actually wanted to tone my arms, tone my legs, snatch my waist and lose 10 pounds. Well, that has nothing to do with clothes. So if I was really actually body focused, then I would actually increase my exercise and decrease my calories and do some meditations as far as reducing trauma that I might be holding in my body for weight to allow the weight to drop off a little more easily and probably do some fasting and focus on injecting more nutrients like with juices. It's a very, very different scenario. So when I'm thinking about positive mind versus negative mind and how positive or how negative I am on any day-to-day experience, and the same with my clients and people that I work with, I'm thinking in terms of like, are we trying to change the outfits so that you feel good for the day? Or are you trying to make a adjustment permanently on your body, which is a baseline experience, a complete permanent change? Are you looking for permanent change or are you looking for temporary change? When it comes down to positive and negative thinking, I am looking for a permanent change. And when I experimented this with myself, I found that thinking inherently positively, it's not an easy permanent change for me because it's not how my mind developed growing up. I don't have enough evidence from my first 20 years of life to support positive thinking, and I'm just going to be very, very honest. But I am inherently very positive, and I hear this from people all of the time. So, I'm gonna dive in deeper and deeper here, so bear with me. But I think you're really gonna enjoy more of what I have to say here. So here's where I want to go in relationship to my experience because I like sharing my experiences because it allows you to see how I perceive myself. And then you can use that as example of whether or not you like that, or it'll give you reflection material and observation for yourself so that you can figure out what you think works for you. And I'm mostly speaking from my experience because I like to source most of my content from what I learn about myself and then give you guys permission and example to learn from yourselves as well. So, if I'm being honest, my original nervous system, like how I grew up and how I was created based on my environment and my mental program, the baseline I would say is a little bit more inherently negative, but it's not negative for the sake of being negative. What does negativity break down for me? and for many people that I encounter. It's that I was unconsciously saying yes to things that I did not want to say yes to. So that created a level of negativity because essentially I was getting results that I didn't want. And I felt like I wasn't heard and I felt like I wasn't seen. And I kept feeling like I was under pressure to do things that I did not want to do. Like I absolutely was not interested in doing them. So, as an adult, through my own personal reparenting, I have had to learn how to become conscious of what I was saying yes to unconsciously and repetitively over the years saying no over and over and over again to things that I didn't prefer. I had to learn what I wanted to say yes to, and I had to learn how to focus on what I didn't want and then actively use my voice to support saying no for me. And the reason why I'm covering it in this way is because when you have your constant focus on no and constant focus on what do I not like about the situation, you might consider yourself a negative person. Now, I'm going to bust that myth and tell you you're not a fucking negative person. Let's get over that right now and say you are learning the process of reparenting yourself to understand what is a yes and what is a no for you. And that approach is very different based on if you have a traumatic background or you have significant trauma in your childhood or if you had a stable upbringing. And by stable, I just mean secure emotional attachments and parents that were present. Now, my background is built in trauma. I did not have secure emotional attachments. I just didn't. They weren't available for me. So I had to teach this to myself. And I had to learn what to focus on. And because I understand spirituality and that you create your life and the law of attraction, I wanted to keep my vibration high. I wanted to experience more positive emotions, but I also wanted to work through this crunchy stuff that was running in the back of my head, which was like, I just want to feel safe. It's why I'm constantly hyper vigilant, scanning every room, seeing all of the exits. And I was taught this way as well. Like as a kid, I was rewarded for being able to see threats and perceive threats and label them out. And, you know, I think they're wonderful survival skills. I'm not going to hate on, how I was raised, even if I don't think it was particularly constructive. Now, overall, I think we can really use the original programming and the original tools that were given to us in our early and childhood development. So when I think about myself, I'm like, well, I grew up in more adverse situations. I have a mind that was taught to be more negative and perceive threats. And I'm like, could that be a handicap for me based on what we know about the law of attraction? I'm like, sure, absolutely. I am not an inherently walk in the door, super sunshiny, bright sort of person. And I'm like, "Well, do I like that handicap? Does that feel good for me?" And I'm like, "Fuck no, that doesn't feel good for me. I'm not interested in that at all. I think that God gave me these gifts to be able to assess survival immediately in any room. And I think I can use that as a tool immediately to see and perceive in a way that I feel is positive and raise my vibrational frequency through my own personal confidence and authenticity and self acceptance in understanding that I am a pro at survival. So instead of fighting myself, going, Stormy, don't think like that. You have to think more positively. What are your beliefs? Believe the affirmations. What are the affirmations? Build them together. Ignore the negative thoughts. Meditate more. Focus on no mind. I will go crazy. There were many years where I was just trying to not be myself, and I just really struggled. I really struggled, and I don't think it's necessary. At this point, when I walk into a room and I'm thinking with my negative mind, I'm like, "What's up, negative mind? I adore you. Not only do you keep me safe, but spirit also works through you." And I'm like, "Okay, is there anything standing out right now that I have to pay attention to?" I acknowledge it and then I go, Cool. How am I going to use that to work for me? And now, if you just notice, that is the positive mind. That just switched on my positive mind. So some of you may not have an inherently positive mind where you glow in every room automatically. Your positive mind may be more work oriented. Like I think mine's a little more work oriented. And I don't mean I have to put in work. I mean I'm looking for improvement. I'm looking to improve something in any room I walk into. I'm looking to improve myself. I'm looking to improve my charisma, my posture, my beauty. I'm looking to improve my communication. I'm looking to improve aesthetics anywhere. Um I am a Libra. We are always very aesthetic people. I am looking to improve anything and everything. Now, in my mind, I could say, "Ugh, bad on you, Stormy. You are critical." I have been in the past. I'm always going to be authentic with you guys. That is something I worked on heavily to remove out of myself, and I don't believe I'm any longer critical. I really have used it to form a high degree of self acceptance in myself and others. But what it really is, what I'm walking you through, is that need to see something to improve is why I'm in the career I'm in and why I am so fucking good at it. So it's like, well, if we take that perspective, would I ever really want to change that about myself and just delete the superpower that is my thought leadership in my career? And that helps tons and tons of people and allows me to connect with others deeply at a deep, deep, deep core level with other humans. I'm like, absolutely not. I would never get rid of that about myself. That's such a beautiful strength. And this is how I want you guys to perceive. And you just experienced me looking at something that looks like it's a perception of something that might be negative on the surface, and you just listened to my ability to immediately tap right into it and see the positive, identify the positive. And the positive isn't just throwing pink paint on a pile of nonsense. When I'm positive, when you guys experience my positivity, it is true, deep, authentic, resounding truth in positivity. It's not a belief I'm wearing for the day. It is the truth. And the truth is, you have God given gifts that might seem or be perceived as negative to other people, but they are truly your truth. And to have a truth is to be inherently positive. Why don't we work with it all and stop worrying about the surface level chatter of what, quote, looks good in front of other people or what you think, quote, looks good in front of God, which, by the way, God doesn't care. God just wants you to love on yourself, enjoy your experience, and learn some fucking lessons while you're down here, okay? The enjoyment part of the experience is also very highlighted. Especially if you believe in God being a woman, which I do. Women are much more pleasure-based, so I prefer the feminine version of God versus the masculine version of God. We will get into that in another stream. I have many things to say around that. So anyway, I also want to talk about the topic of someone that would be more inherently positive, okay? So for someone else, maybe for someone that's dissimilar to me and grew up with a more stable upbringing, emotionally, or had their needs emotionally met when they were in early and childhood development, they might have a more positive outlook, which is also really, really, really cool. I just can't identify it to it in the same way. It would just paint a different level of development for how they are understanding their own emotional baseline frequency. Many people would perhaps see that as being an advantage, and I think it could be, but ultimately, I think we're all given like a pretty I don't want to call it like a fair and square game, but what will I say? I will say that the law of balance is very real. And I say this all of the time. If you are given a major disability, in one way or another. And I'm referring to disability as in like a shitty card deck hand. Like if you're missing a parent or people weren't emotionally available for you, or you couldn't make attachments when you were early in your upbringing, or you weren't safe, or there were lots of things stacked against you. I truly believe that the universe immediately gives you the equal and opposite. And I think if you just pick your nose up and look around, you'll find that you were given the opposite thing as an antidote to balance what you didn't have, to balance what I would call a spiritual or emotional disability. And I think that's very, very real. And again, even me saying this is my positive mind coming right in. And I don't know, I guess I really just see it as truth, but even as I'm speaking through this, I'm like, that is positive, but I'm not painting it on. It's just freaking truth. I just understand the laws of the universe and I understand how to work with them. So anyway, for someone else that is a little more positively focused in general, their focus wouldn't be as much saying no to things they've unconsciously said yes to, because if you're not coming from a lot of trauma, that's not going to be your background. Their focus could be just saying yes to things that they want, learning how to say yes to what you want. It's just keeping your focus on what you want. For example, like the year of yes. What are you saying yes to? Saying yes to everything and figuring out what you want and discerning and focusing on what you want. I think it's really, really beautiful to focus on what you want. I just know that there are a lot of us that struggle to even know what we want because there are too many things that we're unconsciously saying yes to that we don't want. So it just depends on where your focus is. Um, and both are beautiful and perfect. It just depends on where you are, and you will know based on your own experience and your own reflection. And what I find is that where the majority of spiritual and manifestation teachers focus on is learning what to say yes to and where to refocus positively. Again, I think this is so beautiful and so wonderful. I just noticed where I've struggled and I've had clients struggle in the past on different topics, and I like to offer a more in-depth discussion based on my ability to hold space for it mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There's often a perception that you don't want to focus on what you don't want to do, or you don't want to focus on what you don't want, because in doing that, the theory is that's not inherently a positive experience. Now, we're just gonna go here. Okay, I'm gonna be crass. I think it's trash. I just think it's trash. I think there is just as much value as focusing on a no as there is on a yes. If you've seen any 2-year-olds recently, they love to say no to things, and it's a really big process of learning. And I don't think there's anything negative about it, really. If we spiritually only consider the yes, if we only consider the good, if we only consider the high vibey thoughts, I mean, it's cool, but I think it's very short sighted. And I'm going to tell you why. And here's the difference. Okay. So the difference has to do with your nervous system, how you were raised, and the automatic thinking, your stable mind, the mind that was developed through childhood. People will either have a more inherently negative mind, again, which stems from usually more adverse or more traumatic experiences. Those that have a more neutral mind are just people that experience a little bit more balance in general. And then those that have a more inherently positive mind, generally speaking, had an environment that was able to somehow cultivate that level of positivity, that positivity was safe for them in one experience or another. And what I like to think about this is positive thinking is not better than negative thinking or neutral thinking. It's really just about understanding which state of mind you are in and if it is currently of service to you in the way that you want to experience your reality. That is a long-winded way of saying, like, do you like it? Okay. Are you observing which state you're in and do you enjoy it? And if you're not enjoying it, you can change your mental state. Ultimately, I don't think positive thinking is better than negative thinking, vice versa. I just really believe it has to do with working with what you already have and what's easier for you to harness and then create momentum with, to then harness the focus of your mind towards something that is filled with truth, towards something that you can believe, and towards something that builds your value and builds your self esteem and builds the value and the esteem of those around you. Because ultimately, it takes a village, you guys. Something I have been saying for probably like 2 decades now that we'll dive into in more episodes and things, but it takes a village to create a wonderful child, to create a wonderful adult human, and it takes a village to destroy a human. I think when people severely struggle and don't get help through their lives and it's like chronic, I think it takes a village to really hurt someone. And I do think it takes a village to raise someone, but I think everything takes a village. So, anyway, it's really about understanding how to work with what you already have and then use that to focus on the outcome that you want without being attached to the outcome. So it's really like getting a clear understanding of what that outcome is. The outcome that I would want to focus on is increasing my pleasure and my satiation for my baseline emotional experience. And I'm identifying my baseline emotional experience as the stable emotional state that I feel day to day, not discrediting any lows and not attaching to any highs, but like if I were to take a temperature for my day, I'm like, okay, we're at a good balmy, like standard 70 degrees today. Like I just want my temperature set at 70 all year round. Like this is why I live in Los Angeles. I did move here from New York and like very similar, like my baseline experience physically in New York. This is the decision one of the decisions I made to move to California is I was like, "I am not doing any more negative 30-degree weather." Like, I have frostbite on my hands and my feet, and I'm like, "I'm never doing this again." So, I moved to California for my steady 70-degree weather. Now, if we compare that to our emotional experience day to day, what sort of emotional experience do you want on a regular basis? Well, even if I relate this back to my move cross country, I was in emotional pain. I was experiencing a lot of depression in New York. I experienced seasonal depression. I could easily fall into depression cycles, and I know that about myself. So I specifically fine tune my environment to highlight and pull out the traits that I want to experience on the daily basis so that I enjoy my experience. And your environment does have a lot to do with creating your reality. And the beauty is, we often can change our environment. We have a say in the places that we live, generally speaking, and what we experience. So it's getting to know intimately your underlying emotional experience, the one that you want to experience, and then understanding where you are right now. What is your baseline emotional experience and what's the difference? And then start cultivating an environment that draws out more of the traits that you want, regardless of how negative or positive or neutral your mind is. The truth is the truth is the truth. The outcome's the outcome. The emotional baseline experience you want to experience just is what it is. And where you are now and where you want to go, there's a gap. And then you can fill that gap with things that would bring you towards what you want to go. And these are just facts. This isn't positive or negative. It just is. It's just fucking truth. So that's how I like to handle navigating my positive and my negative mind. And I do want to just cover briefly because I was just thinking about this. Saying no to something you don't want versus saying yes to something you want. Does the focus really matter either way? No. Every situation is going to be a little bit different. And I would implore you to trust your experience daily to know where your focus should be. Should your focus be more on no's or more on yeses? Now, I feel like I split it pretty evenly right now, but I have spent years really fine tuning that no, like really learning how to say no. Saying no to something you don't want opens yourself up for the option of what you do want, but perhaps don't know how to ask for yet. When you say no to something, you are inherently saying yes to its opposite. So you are saying yes, you're just focusing on saying no in the moment. And when you say yes to something you want, you are also saying no to something that you don't want, which is also beautiful. So ultimately, all these things cancel each other out. It doesn't really matter if you're super positive or super negative per se, or focused on a yes or focused on a no. The point is, are you just navigating towards the facts of what the fuck you want today? All right. Like I handle things pretty fact friendly. It's no less awakened or less conscious to say no than it is to say yes to something that you do want. So, the difference in why most people struggle with these concepts is that if you have experienced a significant amount of trauma in your life or you were raised by humans that practiced a lot of dark psychology, tactics, your mind will inherently automatically agree to things that are not good for you. So then your work as a person that encountered more adversity is to learn how to say no a lot to things that you don't agree to or that don't feel right for you, because then you will naturally refocus your mind on something more positive without effort, because you're working with your existing mental programming that is there to help you, that is there to help you navigate your reality by understanding your own subconscious mind. And I don't think we need to work against that. But you will have to work with being able to say no to things that are inherently not great for you. So you have to know what's not great for you. You have to know what doesn't feel good. And that's going to be your inspection observation work. Now, if you did grow up with more stable circumstances or a more positive upbringing, then your mind likely will err a little more positive, and that's great, and that's to be celebrated, and I'm excited for you. And from that place, you can focus on what feels good for you, to focus on a yes rather than a no. So your work would be in understanding the subtle ideas of what is pleasurable and what would create more pleasure. Both approaches will get us to roughly the same quote place, I will say. And that place is being a truthful, fact-friendly outcome of you closing the gap between where you are and where you want to go. It's all very, very, very relative. But again, neither approach is more positive or more negative than the other. It's just that one appears more positive and one appears more negative. But the difference is, are you able to temper your own temper? Are you able to understand how to focus your mind? Again, with the understanding that it doesn't really matter, if the ignition and the catalyst for that focus in your mind is a negative event or a positive event. And when I say event, I mean thoughts, but really anything. So, yes or no? What's better? Yes or no? What's better? Positive or negative? Oh my God. The universe really doesn't care. The universe is pretty freaking neutral. The universe just cares on where your focus is. The universe just wants to know the direction. And when I say where your focus is, where your focus goes, people always say is where your attention flows. Like, yes, but actually, here's the deal. Where your focus goes is where your power follows. The power that is built in your body that radiates from your sacral and your solar plexus chakras and your lower chakras is directed through your day based on your focus. So if you are focusing towards a reality you don't like, towards outcomes you're not interested in, we could also call these lower timelines or karmic timelines, then that is where your power is being directed. And your power is where you are walking, breathing, living. Your power will override your mind in any moment of the day based on how much momentum you've built in a certain direction. So, what the universe is focused on is, where is your power directed? Your power is directed based on your focus, where you are focusing your attention for an outcome and how much you believe it. Because you could focus your mind in a positive direction, but if you believe something different, your power is being sent to an alternate reality. And at the end of the day, your mind is not going to override the power from your body. Your body is going to manifest over your mind. So, this is why I'm saying it's all very relative when we're working with the laws of the universe, the laws that construct this reality. The universe doesn't care if you're positive or negative, truly. The universe just is monitoring the temperature or the amount of the surge of your electricity in your body and where you are sending it. Okay. Where you are, quote, sending it is where you have consistently focused your mental thoughts and your mental power, and the level through which you believe that that was a good strategy for you, either consciously or unconsciously. So, I hope that makes sense. I hope that alleviates a lot of anxiety, in a lot of you, actually, because I feel like there's a lot of anxiety spiritually around, like, I'm not thinking positively enough, or I'm too negative, or I need to change all these thought patterns. And I would love nothing more than for you guys just to relax, because self-acceptance naturally raises your frequency. And when you start to work with what you already have based on your existing mental baseline, you're not fighting who you are. And if you're not fighting who you are, you're already in a state of neutrality or at least slightly positive, which means your focus is already naturally where it needs to go. And I think God built you the way that you need it to be. Okay, I'm not saying that we can't improve. I'm just saying, like, you have an operating system. Like, let's find a way to improve and elevate that operating system before we delete it and swap it out for something entirely different. And then you're trying to resurface and go, who am I again? Meanwhile, your subconscious is just going to override the program anyway. So I'm an inherent believer in working with the deep aspects of self that I truly believe that, y- regardless of any dysfunction that we work through and heal within ourselves, ultimately, if we accept the truth of who we are and work with that truth and work with that power, I just find it to be so much easier than trying to override everything to make everything look like it's a surface level positive belief or positive thought or I have a positive mind. Have you ever seen people that are crazy positive, like to the degree that you're maybe it's just me, who knows? Where I'm just like I'm like, I don't know if you're really that positive or if you're a narcissist. Like people can feel the difference between true authentic positivity and positivity that is superficial and fake. And I think the universe can tell too. So, you guys, I thank you so much for joining me with this podcast episode. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful for you. You guys can let me know wherever this platform is in the comments somewhere, or feel free to send me an email. If you do like the idea of training yourself to be inherently more positive emotionally, I'll say, as opposed to mentally, being able to focus your mind on a key insight or idea for the day and then channel your power into a positive emotional experience for the day, then I would love to invite you into my Joyride program. It is a 30-day meditation experience. It totals like, I think it's like over 8 hours of meditations and reflections. But every day for 30 days, when you enroll, you get dripped a new meditation and a new reflection for the day that helps you harness and focus both your mind and your emotional body, your subtle body, to create power, direction, and momentum to create a better life for yourself, building momentum one day at a time until you reach 30 days. And then you can always repeat the cycle. But it's 30 days of content that you jump into the meditations in the morning to start your day. They are all inherently positive. It's called the Joy Ride because it's an energetic frequency, an energetic medicine that I've created as a shaman that helps you to build that emotional momentum, the energetic momentum to increase your vibrational frequency, change your baseline emotional experience to be inherently more positive without trying to overwork yourself into that place mentally. I just bring you there through the superconscious and through the subconscious mind, through gentle auto suggestion and reprogramming, through meditations that are healing activations. Some of them are a little goofy, a little funny, some are a little more serious. They're all really focused on helping you connect to your own intuition and your own subtle emotional body, teaching you very gently and very subtly how to refocus your emotions with the power of where you want to focus your attention for the day, which is going to be on something, anything that is going to be a little bit more positively expectant so that you can create a life that you love and you prefer. And I've had so many people go through this program and they said, even after just a few days, they started building a lot of momentum. And after 30 days, they had so much more momentum and were able to get through really challenging, very, very, very difficult emotional experiences, even through that 30 days with just these meditations. And the meditations I kept them short and sweet because gosh, we've all got short attention spans, right? Ultimately, I wanted to help you to build a 30-day habit or ritual because it takes about 30 days scientifically to create a new habit. And once a habit is created, your mind sets it and throws it on autopilot, and you will naturally become a more positively thinking, positively feeling person after 30 days. with this work. I really think you're going to enjoy it. Now, you can go check out the link at imemelina.com/joy-ride, or I will leave a link somewhere in the show notes for you guys. And if you have any questions about it, you can always send me an email at wearewokeaf@gmail.com. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending you the most blessed and beautiful, positively expectant day for yourself. Enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Alrighty, peace.